Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. And if you head over to the wonderful website, cop some merchandise, take a selfie with you rocking the gear, shoot it to yours truly, the host, Dom Brightman at gmail.com, and I will give you a shout out on the show as well, and heck, even tag you on social media as well. So feel free to check out some of the good old merch on GoingNorthPodcastShop.com. Now let's get on with some super special awesome content. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North Podcast. We got another super special awesome human for you today because my goodness, she's actually a fellow Marylander from the DMV. That's right, baby, that's right. We're neighbors by county because today's guest, my goodness, she is a lady who made a passive dream manifest, y'all. She made some dreams manifest, y'all. So hashtag LOA, Law of Attraction swag, because she's a daughter of entrepreneurs and a professional life revolved around their family business. And it was only when she had her first of her two children that she hung up the corporate hat. That's right, folks. No more corporate hat, and put on a metaphorical cowboy hat and discovered the joy of motherhood would be the impetus for writing her first children's books. That's right, this wonderful lady loves the kids, y'all. So let's give it up for the amazing and lovely Aruna Lepore. How you doing today, Aruna?
I'm good. Thank you, Dom, and thank you for having me on. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Second ever podcast interview for you, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, yep, yes. This is going to be a fun time. I'm happy to share my journey with everyone, all your wonderful listeners, and maybe I can if I can inspire one person with a story, that's all I need.
Ah, there you go. That's right, especially if they have a penguin hat, right?
Yeah, especially yes.
So yes indeed. Well, as you know, all introductions aren't allowed to be 78.5 days long, and I'm pretty sure I forgot some stuff about you. So mind filling in any cavities I missed about you, Aruna, and fill us in on a little bit about yourself. Now you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah, the end point of this is going to be where have become a published author. I also did illustrate the book as well because have had interest in painting most of my life. So it was really fun to take the paintbrushes out again and have a purpose for it. Yeah, but my story actually started in Trinidad and Tobago because that is where I am from, even though I am now a US citizen. Home is always home. So, and I do go back very often. My dad started, he was the true entrepreneur. He began some businesses in Trinidad that were very successful. My mom was housewife and best mom ever. Sadly, my dad passed away when he was 6, and my mom she decided that she rather than just give it all up, she decided to give up she hung up her hat of being a housewife, and she decided she'll be the mother, but she's going to also take over where he left off. So she jumped right into it, and she did it really for the benefit of my brother and me. So that this is just cultural in the Caribbean. You start a business and you do it all for your kids, and with the hopes that someday that you've provided for them, really, whatever their path is. So that is what she did, and she became very strong in her own rights, and she is the strongest person that I know. She still runs it to this day. And I'm not going to divulge how old she is because all my life I've always heard her say, don't say how old I am. And now that I'm older, I tell my kids the same thing. We don't talk about mama's age. um, so this was my path. My path was businesses. It was to take over someday. My brother, who was older than me, sadly, he passed away as well when we were kids. So my mom, I always remember her saying, after losing her child, she could face anything in this world, anything that's thrown at her, she can face it. Well, needless to say, she became, the my mom, my dad, my siblings, and my provider, my nurturer, my educator, everything. So I went on to college and so on in the US. And I worked with my mom. I came back to Trinidad and I worked with my mom. And that was where I was headed. That was the path that I was headed for. While I was doing my undergraduate, however, I had gone there when I was older because I was working with my mom first. So I didn't start my undergrad till I was maybe 24 or 25. And I met someone who was actually working in the international students office. And I was an international student. And there was a connection, needless to say, that many years later, we got married. So it was a choice that I had to make whether I was going to stay on the path that I was always knew that I would take, or would I get married and leave Trinidad and go to the US, which obviously I chose the latter. And I go back. My mom and I are extremely close, and I go back very often as I can. I have two kids now, and just as you had mentioned before, once I had kids, that became the thing that I felt was of utmost importance. Here I have when my firstborn came, I felt like I had this little life in my hands, and it was up to me to direct that life. I had this precious thing, and it was up to me. And parenthood is such, not to be taken for granted. It's when you think of it that way, that what you do, what you say, and how you raise your child, that's how your child is going to grow up to be. And it's such a huge responsibility. And I took that responsibility on with every fiber of my being. Some might say I may have done it too much. I was not a helicopter parent. I always believed in independence, but I believed in independence when they were ready for it. So, when it came to nursing or potty training or sleeping on their own, that was always up to them. So, my mom still has a business, and I try once in a while where I can help. I try to help. I don't do a fraction of anything of what I used to do, but where I'm there whenever I can help. But it's not easy when you have kids, and not easy when you're not living in the same country. So during the pandemic, when it began, that we were all home, kids are doing virtual. Writing was not necessarily something that I thought that I would do in the sense that I'd become an author. I guess I always liked to write. In fact, this morning my husband was saying, I was telling him I needed to let someone know about how I was feeling about something. I'm going to write them. And he said, I'm a firm believer that you should call and speak to that person. And I said, you know what? I just do better when I write. And I heard myself say that. And I thought, yeah, I guess I've always felt that way. I like to write. I don't necessarily write a whole lot, but over the years, I've written to my mom too, because I'm not there and we're so close. Mother's Day, I write her short stories, poems. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. But to actually write a book, I think not that the thought did not cross my mind, but I never knew, okay, I write a book, what's next? I never knew what would happen next. How do I get the book out there? And I think the thought of that is probably what stopped me from really trying, especially as with kids, you don't have a whole lot of time to go exploring a whole new world. So one day during the pandemic, I happened to see in my listserv, my email listserv, I saw an opportunity. The first thing that I saw when I read it, I opened up this email and it said, "Did you ever think of being an author?" And I thought, well, yes, I have. Let me read on. And I read on, and it was this uh, uh, Emily Barras. She was advertising a webinar, free webinar. So I thought, let me just check this out. And I did, and I loved how she spoke with us who were on the webinar. And I thought, well, maybe this is the what's next. This is what happens next after you write a book. Maybe I'll try. And I got in touch with her and I said, okay, I'm going to write something. I used the values that I have as a mom and a storyteller because I tell my kids stories. They love when I just make a story up, at bedtime. They love when we read books, but they love when I tell a story and I'll just make it up on a whim. And I thought, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write a story on a whim. And I put pen to paper, so to speak, keep fingers to keyboards. But I always knew that it would, if I had to write, it would be something to do with kids. I, I shouldn't say that I always knew that. I always liked to write. And of course, when I didn't have kids, I didn't know I would want to write about kids. But I would say lately, right, in the last few years, I'm so very in tune with them that I felt that it would. So I thought it could be about writing a parenting book. But because when my first was born, when my firstborn was here in the world, and I had this thing, and I'm like, what? How do I not break her? What do I do to not break her? I went to this class, La Leche League. It was not a La Leche League class, but it was run by someone from that wonderful woman. I will never forget her, Faith, Miss Faith Cloud from in Florida, and she taught me all about attachment parenting, and I got hooked. It's the difference between going to your child, to your infant when they cry, as opposed to letting them figure it out. And I took on a whole new feeling about my baby, and I thought, okay, this is how I am not going to break her into pieces. This is what I have to do. So I always felt like I could write after years, and then my second came, and I felt like I could write about something to do with parenting, but I don't feel like I have the credentials to do so. So the other way of writing is I can write a story, and in that story I can portray the values that I learned from my own mom and the values that I bestow on my kids. So so I wrote a story and I sent it into Emily for us. She's a Bold Story Press. And she liked it. And I was so happy when she said she liked it and that we can try and work on this together. And yeah, that is how I ended up becoming a published author. And I plan on doing a second as well. So that's all, all in the works at the back of my brain.
Indeed, you gotta get the front of the brain too, because first book is about some penguins, so why penguins?
Why penguins? I so when I tell my kids stories at night, and I do it on a whim, like I said, I would just think quickly of a character, and it's usually an animal, a bear, a pig, a duck, whatever it is. And I sat at my computer and go, I guess a penguin came into my mind because at that time, my son, that was his favorite animal, was a penguin. And we had just come back from 4 years living in South Africa. And while we were there, we were fortunate enough to go to Cape Town, a beach town in Cape Town, and we saw hundreds of penguins. There's a boardwalk that you can go to, and there are penguins on either side. And I went there a couple of times. So in my mind, when I think penguin, that's what I think of. I'm not thinking of the penguin with the scarf and the beanie. I'm thinking of those. And so So I went with Penguin just to see how it would go. And then I started writing this story, and I liked where it was going. So I thought, yes, I'm going to stick with this character. I just need to give him a name. And I'm thinking in my head what he should look like, and I started sketching it out. And he absolutely had to look cute because the characters I tell my stories when I tell my kids stories, they're always a cute little animal character that goes through some difficulty, and it creates some empathy from them. And then there's always a happy ending. So I looked at him, and I the name Peanut just came to me, when you talk to a child and you call them, hey, little Peanut. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I think. And it had a ring to it. That's exactly what it is. I tried on different names on him. That was the one that stuck.
So no Polish sausage, the penguin. That didn't work out. Let me stop. I know you're going the alliteration route with everything. That's
Yeah,
why peanut sounds good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where the ring comes from. Yeah. I did try other names. I don't remember what I tried, but they were definitely all letters, P letters. So that was the one that seemed to fit.
There you go. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. The power of imagination. The mommy nation. That's right indeed. The momgenation. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably doesn't have as a good ring to his imagination, but hey, it's all good. It's all good indeed.
yeah,
So, the wonderful thing I hear about the marvelous penguins, getting to see the penguins, and most folks thinking like, oh yeah, the penguins, like yeah, they're in Antarctica somewhere, maybe Alaska with all the snow and whatnot. But it's like, nah, fam, they ain't just
yeah,
there. That's right. They in
yeah.
South Africa. They at the beach. They take they peaches, not peaches. Penguins get tans too, y'all. That's right.
Yeah. I will say the beach was not a warm, sunny beach. It was not a shore because I don't think anyone actually goes on the beach there, but it was not particularly warm, but it was definitely no Arctic, of course, because it's South Africa. But like I tell when I do readings, the first thing I tell the kids is, what do you think about when you think of a penguin in a story that you've read? Because I know they've read books about penguins before. Do you think of the characters having a scarf? And they always say yes. Or a nice warm hat, and they always say yes. And then I tell them that little fact that most of the penguins, 98% of the penguins in this world, don't actually live in the Antarctic. So they are of a warmer weather. And they're the African penguins. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to name like I know, and I'm going to name them all, but besides the African, they're the Galapagos penguins. But the majority of them, again, so my whole book is about Peanut and his family and their colony who live on this rocky sandy shore. And in my head I was remembering the shore that I saw them on as well. So that was the character. The actual story and what it's about was could have been any animal, any character.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about indeed. That's right, and I believe your love of finger painting and painting inspired the design for the book, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Yes. When I was in high school, I started to, well, I think what you would probably call middle school here. Our high school goes from the age of 11 to the end of high school. It's called high school. And
Wow.
I developed, yeah, a love of painting. Um, I think once I got married and had kids, yeah, it's definitely took not even a back seat. I literally had to pull out my paints and dust off the container and open the tubes and see if they were still alive and get my paintbrushes out when I wanted to do Peanut the Penguin. I hadn't painted for so long. But my kids, my kids, my kids, my kids, my inspiration. They were I told them what I was going to do, and they were all excited. And upstairs, I have one child on one end of the room doing virtual school, my other child on the other end of the room doing her virtual school. And I'm in the middle, and I have my easel and the paints I haven't seen for years and years, and my paintbrushes. And I said, what do you think if I try to illustrate my own book? And they said, yes, 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 you have to do it. So I started trying it, and I realized, my word, this is going to be, because when you write a book, you write it, but then you got to separate the pages, and then each page needs its own image. And I started to realize this is not going to be 10 images. This is probably going to be 20 plus images. And I'm painting, it's not graphics, it's all hand painted. And by about the second or third painting, I said, I don't know, I mean, I could hire somebody to do this much faster than I can do it, because I'm still a mom. I have my kids home. I still have to stop for every break, and they both have staggered breaks. I still have to make them lunch and, hang out with them and help them with homework and the whole shebang, the dinner, everything. So where am I getting time to paint? And I need to paint during the day. I can't paint at night when it's dark. And they said to me, Mom, you gotta do it. Make this your own. You know if you do it, you're going to feel like you've accomplished. And they were my support from beginning to end. And they kept saying, you can do this, Mom, you can do this. And it's okay, don't worry about us. We're fine. And so I pushed on, and I painted them all. And it was a very long process and a lot of back and forth. And then there was the logistical problem of, how do I get a painted page into a form where it can be printed by, by the book distributor or the printer. That was something we all had to figure out. The publisher and they had never had to do that before. It's not something that's usual. It's not common. Things are done graphically and they can be sent electronically. So this was a lot of scanning and figuring that part out as well, and coloring, and what I paint is what I paint. Is that the colors I'm going to see in the book eventually? There was a lot of back and forth with that.
So any other setbacks you had to overcome to finally get this book into print in the hands of the kids?
Yes, absolutely. The pandemic, we speak about the supply chain and how it was affected,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
don't realize it until it affects you. So apparently, when I was ready to publish, there was a shortage of paper. This is because all the rush on paper towels and the rush on toilet paper at the very beginning, everyone ordering pizza, so pizza boxes are getting manufactured. Suddenly there was a shortage of paper, which trickled over to the publishing industry. And a number of us had to wait for supplies to come back of paper before we could um, have the book published. So it was ready, and it was ready to go, but we then had to wait for that, and that took a couple of months, if I remember.
Yeah, kind of interesting you brought that up because that thought didn't even cross my mind. Another reason, it's like, oh yeah, supply chain issues, workers, COVID, folks having to
Hmm.
stay home or whatnot. But it's like, oh yeah, everybody's at home ordering pizza and ordering on Amazon, and they have to produce all those dark cardboard
Right,
boxes.
exactly. All those boxes are, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like, darn, alright, so that's something else I didn't even consider. Another reason why humans are better together, usually.
Yeah, yeah,
That's right, indeed,
exactly.
that's right. Hey, so my goodness, a podcast interview number 2, and you got book number 1 out, so any sneak peek of what to expect from book number 2, or is that G14 classified?
Um, I'm actually right now in a debate with myself. When I wrote Peanut, the penguin, the first thing I did was read it to my kids to see how they reacted. And actually, to that point, because I had the kids at home when I was painting, I would show them, and they would always say something like, Mom, that is beautiful. It's beautiful. But can we just say something? Why is why is the Peanuts mom's head so big? And I would take a look back and go, you're right. You're right. Her head is way too big. I don't know how that happened, and I'll paint it over, which is why it took so long. They were my sounding board. They were my constructive critics. They were my support and everything. So when I was thinking of book number two, originally I was thinking I'm going to do this the way that I tell them stories. I make up a different story every time, and it's always a different character and a completely different story. And that's what I'm going to do with books. I'm going to come up with a completely different character. And I did. And I wrote something and I wasn't feeling it. And I told it to them. And as usual, they said, we love it. My daughter said, I love it. And I completely agreed with the but. And I wasn't feeling it. So I put that one aside. I wrote another one, which is the one that right now I'm thinking I would go with. Um, Completely different character, no connection to Peanut. But the debate within myself right now is whether the kids I've read Peanut the Penguin to at schools, they love it so much and they love Peanut so much. I also am a nursery school assistant teacher. And I remember for even a month and a half or 2 months after I'd read the book to them, they would come in with their pants and their parents would tell me that they kept pointing to the penguins and saying, these are peanuts. This is peanut and this is peanut and this is peanut. And I realized how much they love the character, the peanut penguin character. And I'm wondering, should I just do another book about Peanut? This book was about the values. It is actually a book about Peanut, who has a special gift, a talent for singing, unlike the other penguins, because penguins don't sing, they walk, but he could sing. And he wanted to share this talent. He wants to make people happy by singing. However, he only sang at night. And at night, this is when all the other penguins on the colony wanted to sleep. So they would get irritated and they would tell him to stop. It would wake them up. So he had to come up with a solution, and he thought perhaps he tried out different ways of where he can sing and not wake the penguins up. Nothing was working, and he went through quite a few disappointments until, with support from his mother and his father and his little sister, he was able to come up with a solution that would make everyone happy, including himself. And so it's a story about uh, my my two main purposes of the story behind Peanut the Penguin. One was I like to invoke empathy in kids. And the reason for that is I find that now with social media, I just feel even the youngest of kids are so exposed to too much that they're not even ready to handle because they don't understand the context of this world. They may pass by and happen to see something about what's going on in Ukraine, and they don't know where that is, but they know what's going on. And I don't think that's fair to them. They need to know what's around them first and appreciate what's around them first before they're exposed to the bad that's happening out there. And I've always been, uh, I've always told my kids, if we see, I don't care if it's a spider, a worm, an ant, no, we don't harm them. They have a little family to go back to right now. Why don't we just name them instead? Let's name them. And then all of a sudden, when the cicadas came out here, my son and I, during his virtual school lunch break, we would go outside and we'd go check out the cicadas. And there was this one cicada we named Frank. And we followed Frank for the entire lunch recess that he had before he went back in. We followed Frank there, and then every time we went outside, and that's what I want them to appreciate. They have enough time in their lives where they can make a decision about how they want to treat creatures. but it starts here with me, and it starts with letting them appreciate the tiniest bit of life. Um, and so, and I believe in that helps them to feel empathetic. And if they can feel empathy towards a tiny little creature, I hope they can go forth into life and feel empathy for the bigger creatures like us. Um, and so this is why I tell them this the type of stories that I do. And this is why with Peanut, I wrote it in such a way. It wasn't just like a little, it's not it's not a poem, it's all scripted, it's a full story. And I wrote it in such a way that Peanuts is someone that is a penguin, that a character that you want to empathize with. And I got that from the kids, and I'm happy to say that when I did read it to kids in the schools, that the parents would come back and tell me, a few parents came back and said that their child was so very sad for Peanut, but then they realized how happy they were for them in the end, and that is exactly what I was trying to do. I feel it's really, really important to get kids feeling that for another being, whatever that being is. That was my first reason. The second reason was I also find that, back in the day, in the well, in the 60s, I remember in Trinidad, not that I remember the 60s, I wasn't born yet. I was almost born. But we grew up on a book, story books that were entitled the brand the I don't know if they were the publisher, the brand, they were called Ladybird books, and they were all full stories with script on one page and beautiful illustrations on the next page. And they were hand painted and hand drawn, and they were beautiful, and they were my favorite books. And I have them now. I actually try to collect them as I got kids. I tried to find them, and they're actually I think now they're collector's items, and you can only get them from the UK. And over the years, I tried to see when I could get a deal on one, and I'd collect them so I could show them to my kids. And I find that now on bookshelves, you don't see books like that. You see, I love the books out there. I have a ton of kids' books here that I purchase. We love them all. But I felt like going back to those grassroots of the hand painted illustrations. And then with my kids telling me, you can do this, you can do this. Um, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted as well. I wanted a nice full story and hand painted illustrations to go with them. Now, why was I saying this? I was saying this, I guess, because I was talking about the next book. And so this first book was all about the values and the empathy. So if I have to do another book on Peanut the Penguin, I'm going to have to think along those lines as well. And it's not always that easy when you stick with a character. Isn't a child doesn't necessarily want to see another sad go happy story about Peanut because he's already been through it. So, I have to work that out in my head before I decide on this second book and whether it should be a continuation of Peanut. That's my very long answer to that question.
So now I got another question follow up. So, naming cicadas, huh? So, did you run out of names? Because there's a bunch of those cicadas
Oh
out
my goodness. There
there. Did y'all
were,
ever run out of names?
oh my goodness.
And how
I
did y'all keep
mean,
track of Frank?
well, we saw Frank, but we saw Frank's cousins, right? Every day we went out there, we saw Frank's cousins. So that's what we call them all, Frank's cousins.
Oh, okay. All right. So no
Yeah.
Tyrone, no Tiffany, no Brittany, no, I don't know, Michelle,
You
Marcus.
know,
Like, yeah,
well,
they,
if my son were here and he heard you, and this was a couple of years ago when the cicadas were out, he would have, or was that last year? I don't even remember.
yeah, it
Was that
was
last
last
year?
year. Yeah.
Okay. He would have taken you up on that, and he would have been outside there naming them all right now.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Almost like Abraham, father of many nations. That's right. Father of many cicadas.
Yeah. A lot of cicadas, a lot of ringing in the airs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, oh, man. So, if this wonderful book, Peanut the Penguin, was a food, what would it be and why?
That's a really interesting question. Hmm. I think he would be broccoli. And I think because broccoli gets a bad rap because kids don't tend to like that, tend to like broccoli. And I feel like that's one of those things that they can learn to appreciate, and they do learn to appreciate. So I guess that would be my answer for that. I think it would be broccoli just because it's not something that kids would tend towards. You have to sort of teach them the value of it before they appreciate it.
Interesting answer indeed. So if for some strange reason the kid finds this episode and they get this far and be like, "Oh, that book's broccoli, yeah," it's game over. I don't want Peanut the Penguin. Nah, it's broccoli, man. Gotta throw cheese on it now.
I've had kids ask me why I named Peanut the penguin Peanut. And they said, is it because he's the shape of a peanut? And I said, that's not, it was more than one child that made that observation. And I thought maybe subconsciously I drew him as a peanut. Maybe that's why I painted him as a peanut. I also got a couple comments from adults that they reminded them of my son. And I just wanted subconsciously, I put the dad and the mom and the sister and the son in it without, without realizing. Peanut has a younger sister, but in reality, my son has an older sister. My daughter's older.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
So do you think you'll explore and probably publish different types of books as your children age? Since daughter, I guess she's about to be 13 this year or next year, right?
She's 13 right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So do you think you might evolve and start writing full novels for the kids or anything like that?
I would love that, but I think I'm going to be mom for so much longer. That would be something way in the future. So I think for now, I'm going to do the best I can do with children's books, picture books. Since this one did, since I enjoyed this one and it's done okay. And later on in life, sure, I would love to do something on parenting, or I don't think anybody would be interested in my biography, so I wouldn't bark up that tree.
Not yet.
Um, but yeah, I would love to, or a series of short stories. I love to write short stories. I just wrote one for my mom last year, and it was about birds. It was a little family of birds, but the significance of it was really about her and me and my dad and my brother and their passing. And so, I might look at doing things like that in addition to children's books, but possibly not in the near future, just because I'm still 100% mom and 100% needed 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hashtag mommy swag indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would tell myself that no matter what choice you make in life or you're going to make in life, the grass is always greener. You always think you make the choice based on what you think that you want. Just remember at some point you're going to think that the grass is always greener on the other side. And that should not deter anyone. It should not deter me from making decisions. But when the decision is made to take a certain route, as you say in life, just know that it can metamorphosize. And what you started out to do may not be what you end up doing. And if you ever have a spark and it was not something that you expected, go with it. Just try it out. You have nothing to lose. You're already on the side of the fence. Go for it, try it out, and see where it takes you, because you never know. I think that's what I would tell myself.
That's right, indeed. That's right. Try it out, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's like that classic "try me" button, indeed. Just press it. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think if you have support of family and friends, it's very healthy. I think you don't realize how much support you do have. Like, for example, with this book, I wrote it and that spark was there. And I think what helped was the encouragement of uh, family and friends, and it made that spark turn into a shine. And when you have that behind you, you can shine. You can just go forth and do it. I mean, I guess not everyone has that sort of support, but if you believe in yourself, I think that's most important. That way, other people do believe in you. But you have to believe in yourself first.
Yes, indeed. That's right. Believe in yourself, indeed. That's right, indeed. So that's right. So back to that inner debate from earlier. I know Aruna's gonna win, y'all. That's right. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. It's gotta be like, hey, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the most fabulous of them all? It's me. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Before the makeup, before everything else, be like, it's me, darn it. That's right,
Yeah.
indeed, indeed. So for those who need to cop 99.5 copies of your marvelous book and share with their friends, family, cat, and camels, what's the best way for folks to do so?
People can check my website out on www.arunamlepore. By the way, the M stands for my maiden name, Maharaj. I am Indian descent, but from Trinidad. So my great grandparents were from India. So it's www.arunamlepore.com. That's Lepore. My Twitter is Aruna M Lepore. And my Instagram is the same, Aruna M Lepore. My Facebook is the same, Aruna M Lepore, on my Facebook page. And of course, my book's on Amazon, and that's where they can actually take a look inside the book and see what, a few pages are displayed there so they can get a better idea of this book and what it's about and how I've written it and painted it. You could pretty much get the book at any online bookseller. Again, Amazon is a place that they can go to as well. They could just go check out my website and click. There's a link that they can click to get to it as well, and they can read more about me and more about the book as well.
There we go. Well, I learned something new today, Maharaj. All right, cool. That's what I'm talking about. That's what the M stands for, indeed. Any particular meaning behind the name Maharaj?
Maharaj was the king. My cousin is going to tell me I don't know. Okay, Maharaj means I know it has to do with king or with someone of royalty. Aruna, I could tell you, does mean the dawn or sunshine, the dawn. Yeah, so my great grandparents, or on one side, and my great great grandparents on the other side, something like that, came from India and settled into Trinidad. So I'm Trinidadian first. I've not been to India. Maybe someday I will be. But my culture is Trinidadian. And I do miss my country and I do like to go back. I love the US of A, but I do miss my country as well.
There we go, indeed. So heard that right, folks. She's got queen swag, and she's bringing some light to you, indeed, through Peanut the Penguin, indeed, and all the future books she's gonna write. So if you need some of that sunshine, head over to our wonderful website. We're gonna put that in the show notes. Snag a copy or two. Share with your kids, y'all. That's right. I've got grandkids. That's right. Tell them about the Peanut, indeed. That's right, indeed. Who knows? There may be a Cashew the Peanut coming out soon. Although it doesn't flow as well as peanut, though.
We did say, right? Peanut versus cashew. Yeah.
That's right. The cashew is going to be the evil penguin because it has the poisonous skin before it becomes an actual peanut. That's right.
I'll call you for some ideas, Tom.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. She'll be like, "Hello, neighbor," and I'll be like, "Hello, neighbor." Cashew the penguin's evil. That's right. It has an igloo. It has a cucumber for an antenna.
Oh.
So, any parting words before we close up shop?
I really enjoyed this. This was wonderful. I'm so happy that you had me on here. And like I said, if I could inspire even one person to, like I said, if there's a spark, go for it. You never know where it's going to take you. It's worth it. It's worth it. Just go for it. And I also want to thank you and I wish you all the best because I know you're a best-selling author as well. So congratulations to you.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in and setting aside some of your time to listen to this wonderful podcast, Going North. If you really enjoyed what you heard, do me a solid and share this with your network and someone that you care about that would get something out of it too. And be sure to subscribe to hear more, and heck, even check out the backlog if you would like, because there are hundreds of episodes to choose from, and they just keep getting better and not butter.